So when I talk to people about Turo, people always ask about private rentals, and for some reason they just don't understand how it works, which I get. When I got started, I didn't know anything. I didn't know how it worked, so I had to learn myself. I didn't really ever have somebody teach me. I watched YouTube videos about it, but nobody really ever talked about how to start it and how to like actually do it. I just knew that you needed like a contract, maybe there's special insurance. So the goal of this video is I'm gonna go over all the information about private rentals and how you can do it. So far this year, we've done about $80,000 in private rentals. We're halfway through the year, and we'll probably end about double that, which would make sense. I think March is our biggest month. We did about 30,000, 35,000, which is majority of the year, obviously, because that's our biggest month. But let's talk about all the things that you need for private rentals in order to be successful. All right, so when I talk about these different things that you need for private rentals, there's certain things you don't need to have. They make it like 10 times easier. They save you a ton of money, but they're not a necessity. So I'm gonna break them up a little bit. I'm gonna talk about the stuff that are really nice to have, and I won't circle them and I won't star them, but the things that you need to have for private rentals, or at least I think you need to have, I'll star them just so you know that these are the things you absolutely have to have. If you're gonna be lazy and not do the other stuff, which if you're gonna do it right, do every single thing that I explain here and some. But again, if you're lazy, just do the star stuff at least, bare minimum. So the first thing, and this isn't starred because it's not a necessity, but honestly you'd be silly not to do it, is have a Google My Business, GMB for short. And essentially what that does is it allows you to get your business out there. So people can look up car rentals near me and your business pops up. People can leave reviews and then it increases your organic SEO, which means people can find you easier. So I think this is really important. It's not a necessity to have, but it's very, very important for outreach. Some people may already have a full customer list and they're like, well, I can just go private by myself with all my customers. There's probably nobody watching this video that has enough customers to go full private. Unless you're already doing full private, kudos to you, but I guarantee if you are, then you have a Google My Business. So this is super, super important. Very easy to set up. It takes like 5 minutes. So just do it. Look up how to set up Google My Business profile on Google. You'll find it. You'll figure out how to do it. But the biggest thing is outreach, and then eventually you can do marketing. So you can do marketing so people can find that page when they look up car rentals in Phoenix or car rentals in Houston, car rentals in Texas, so they can find you specifically. If you're gonna do marketing, that's like a completely different topic. That's probably gonna be a completely separate video. The second thing you're gonna want is a website. This one's probably in between a necessity and a non-necessity. It's kind of like Google My Business. You don't need it. It's really nice to have because it increases the likelihood of somebody like learning about you and trying to find out about the business. It opens up a lot of opportunity. So more reach, booking capabilities. And I mean, think about this. Think about it like this. If you don't have a website, the process would be somebody calls, they say, hey, I want to book for these dates. You write it down somewhere, like in a notebook or a calendar, which would be silly, but I don't know how else you do it. Or maybe you have your own back-end software, which you probably don't. You don't have a website. And then you have to have like a handwritten contract or have to send it on DocuSign, and look at this. Now you have a full manual process that you have to like take the call, do all the work, super extensive. So website kind of, and I'm gonna explain the other things that you're gonna need. Website ties all this stuff in together. Website is kind of a key piece to it, and it really ties all the information. So that's pretty much all it does though. More reach, booking abilities. Third, this is a booking software, okay? This, I'm gonna star this one. That's how important I think it is. You don't need to have it. Like, I mean, you're not gonna get reservations because you don't have it, but I think it's so important that I feel like it's a necessity. Not only do you get to store customers' information, you have a dashboard like Turo, and you can see all the reservations on there. You can see the calendar. You have the contracts in there, so you don't have to like manually write anything out and have a drawer full of contracts. Like, it pretty much takes paper to digital, and it stores all the information. I think we started by not having a booking software. Honestly, it sucked. Like, it really, really sucked. I didn't know of any other way, but once we found out that you could have like a booking software, game changer. I would never go back. It's like 150 bucks a month. It makes our job a million times easier. Now we can like have people book on our website and do no communication. We don't have to talk to them. They can just, kind of like Turo, they can book immediately on our website. We're making 50% more revenue, or maybe 100% more revenue with the same amount of effort as Turo, except you do have to verify insurance, which we'll go over here in a minute. There's a good amount of booking softwares. I only know of a couple of the big ones. We use HQ. It's called HQ Rentals. It's been good. I have no complaints about it. They help you set it up. There's like a setup fee and they build it all for you. And then you can go in and modify things. It's not super complicated. I like it because I can go in and like add my own cars, change the pricing, block out stuff. I mean, it's just super user friendly, and there's quite a bit of stuff you can do to it. So I really like it. That's where we started, and we probably won't go anywhere until crazy cool software comes out or we build our own. All right, so the next big software that I've heard of is called FleetWire. I've seen people use it. I've seen the integration. I'm not a big fan of it, but it works, supposedly. I don't know. I obviously can't speak too much of it just because I've never used it, but that's another one of the big ones. If you look up car rental backend software or apps like HQ or softwares like HQ or softwares like FleetWire, you'll find something. If I were you and if I were getting started, I'd probably do demos of all the different kinds of companies, because maybe there's companies that have different softwares and different things that you can do that you want to use. So I would do demos on everybody, and that's probably something that we need to do. All right, so the next one's insurance. This one is like, you need to have it. You have to 100% have to have it. I'm not even going to really go into too much detail. You just have to make sure your car is insured. You have to make sure that they know it's going to be in rental service, and they have to know that it's going to be in private rental service, because there's a difference. There's a difference between renting it out on Turo, because there's minimal use by user and that's already insured by the company. And there's a difference between private, because not everybody vets their insurance companies, like as in the customer's insurance company. So it's different. We use GMI. They do really good. I think we spend like $100 a month. I don't know if we're going to stay with them right now. We might be looking at other insurance companies, but they've been good for small scale. Then there's one, it just came out. I think they're partnered with Turo. I don't know if Turo owns a piece of them, but it's called Tint. If I'm not mistaken, Tint. I don't know what they're about. I just saw they came out. Lula was another huge provider, and they went out of business, supposedly, or somebody bought them out. Something happened to them. I don't know the full story. So now it's Tint. That's the new thing, okay? And then there's ABI, which I don't know if they do this kind of insurance, but they're out there. I think they're still a company. So that you just have to make sure that you have insurance that'll cover the vehicle while you're driving it, and then in case the insurance from the guest doesn't cover it. So very important. The next thing is, this one is not a necessity for sure, but it's kind of nice. And this one is sell insurance. So there's third-party companies where essentially you can white label insurance. And the only reason you do this is to open up your ability to rent to people. Because if somebody has liability insurance, obviously you can't rent to them because it only covers the car that they hit. What about your car? You can't just put it under your insurance. You do 2 accidents on your insurance and they're going to kick you off. Because the point of it's not to use it like that. The point of it is like a backup. And we're gonna go into vetting here in a second. That's one of the next steps, and that's a necessity for sure. But the idea of selling insurance is to open up the ability to rent to people with no insurance, which you'd have to like have some back-end software that like you'll vet them to some degree. Maybe you'll check their driving history, that's the first thing I check, and then maybe credit. Credit doesn't mean as much as driving history. Driving history will tell you like if they have problems or not, and then credit's just, some people mess up. So selling insurance, the only idea is more customers and then margin. So you can make, right now we're making like $7 a day for insurance, which isn't a ton, but if you do, renting 10 cars out, all of them are getting insurance, $70 a day, you're talking about 30 days in a month. It adds up. It adds up pretty quickly. So insurance is nice to sell. We use a company called Coverage Connect. You can check them out. The next thing that I want to talk about is vetting. This one, I think this is a necessity. Like if you have somebody calling and they want to rent a car, you have to make sure that they're like legit. You want to make sure that they're not going to mess up your car. And we just have like simple questions. Our vetting, we're not doing any background checks. We're not doing anything crazy. Like the only thing we're doing is asking simple questions that pretty much tell the person's story and tell us whether we should rent to them or not. The first question is, I'm going to put these together, local. So I want to make sure that they're local travelers, that they're not going from here to New York, putting thousands of miles on it, and that's the first thing I ask, because if they're trying to go to New York or Texas, and you wouldn't believe it, a lot of people are trying to go really far. If they want to go that far and they only want it for like a couple of days, I'm just going to tell them no, that we don't rent to people that go that far. So if I can get that off immediately, it's a lot easier. Next thing is I want to make sure that they have insurance. So if they do have insurance, I always ask, is it liability or full coverage? If it's just liability, I'll ask them more questions to determine whether we'll rent to them. Because if people have just liability, sometimes it's sketchy, because like most people should have full coverage. If you have just liability, I don't know. Sometimes people are only allowed to just get liability. So it kind of sketches me out a little bit. At that point, we'll ask more questions. If they don't pass my sniff test and I don't like the way they're sounding or what they're wanting to do, then I'll just send them to Turo. If they have no insurance, I'll just send them to Turo. So there's obviously a lot of different questions I ask, and then that determines what I do with them. Next is debit/credit. So a question I'm asking that is, do you have a major debit or credit card? Do you have a Wells Fargo? Do you have a Chase card? Do you have an American Express or credit card? Or are you trying to rent with like a Chime card? Because if you have like any one of the major debit or credit cards, you're probably fine. Like if it's attached to an individual, I'm okay with that. But when you're talking about like a Chime card or a refillable card that you'll go to a gas station, like fill up with money, I don't like that. I will never take those. I'll send them to Turo, and 10 times out of 10, Turo will deny them. I don't know what it is. It's something about people that use cards like that. Sketchy. Like every time I'll deny them no matter what. I mean, it's just super sketchy. The last thing that I'll ask is over 21. I want to make sure that they're over 21. If they're over 21, we're fine. If they're under 21, we don't rent them. We'll sometimes send them to Turo because Turo has like the insurance and the ability to do it. But for us, it's not worth the risk because anybody under 21 is a lot riskier. Our insurance doesn't, I don't know if it covers that. So I like to be better safe than sorry. The next thing, and this is 100% a necessity, I'm going to put 2 stars around this, is contracts. This is something that like you wouldn't believe how many people just don't have contracts. It's crazy. I've heard, and people that I know too. I have some guys that I know and they're renting cars out and they're past customers, which I get. They'll rent the car out, no contract. They won't verify insurance. They'll just let them take off. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Are you joking? If something happens, like if they crash the car, maybe your insurance would cover it, but then, a couple of those, you're done. Their insurance won't cover because you don't have a contract. Insurance companies will not do anything without a contract. So you're setting yourself up for so much liability. If you don't have okay, here's the deal. If you don't have a contract, if you're not gonna put a contract in place, don't rent private. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. I would never rent a car out without a contract. When I started, I'd handwritten contracts. They're typed out, but I would hand fill in all the information, their name, their date, their birthday, their driver's license information. I'd have them sign it, a piece of paper, I'd make them sign it. So I can't even explain how important contracts are. I've had a handful of accidents on private. First thing insurance companies ask, send us the contract. Let me see the contract. There's no way around it. If you don't have a contract, they're not covering it. You're gonna have to try to go to this insurance company. If this insurance company finds out you don't even have a contract, if I were the insurance company, I wouldn't even cover it. And if they do, for some reason, they cover the rental, you're gonna get 1 or 2 of those and you're just gonna get dropped. I know people that have put stuff on their insurance companies. I know a guy who's putting like glass claims on his insurance. He put like 5 or 6, they dropped him. I mean, it's just a profit game for them. Like we have to have it, and it's a profit game for them. If you put too much stuff on your insurance, they're not going to collect it, or they're not going to keep covering you. But there's ways to collect it. I mean, you can go to the guest insurance, or the guest can pay for it 10 out of 10 times. You just have to know the process to do it. The last thing is, and this is something also that people I don't know, they just don't do it, and I don't know why. It's really crazy. Verify insurance. And it's crazy because people just don't care, is what it feels like. People rent to people, and I'll talk to them. I'm like, because people ask me questions and call me and stuff, and they'll say, I'll be like, are you verifying insurance? Like, no, they showed me a picture. I'm like, somebody showed me a picture. Somebody's forged an insurance policy and showed it to me. That's happened like 3 or 4 times. People have showed me so many things, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, you don't know until you call. And the problem with when they show you a card that says it has insurance under this vehicle, unless it's the declaration page, it doesn't show you if it's comp and collision, because you remember, you need that. If you want your car insured, it needs to be comp and collision, and the little insurance card that they're going to show you isn't going to have that. And then not all comp and collision extends to rentals. Like, it's a small percentage that doesn't, but there's still times it doesn't. I just let a car go yesterday. The guy had full coverage insurance, full coverage, comp, collision, liability, but it didn't extend to rentals. So if I just took his word for it or saw the declaration page and said, oh, he has full coverage, it extends to rentals, I'd be screwed. It wouldn't cover it. So he gets in an accident, I can't do anything. So what I did in that instance is I sold him insurance to cover the car. So again, if you're not gonna do verify insurance, if you're not going to do contracts, if you're not going to vet the people, if you're not going to have insurance, and if you're not going to have a booking software is probably the least important, but these are very important. Just don't even do it. I wouldn't even get into the game if you're not going to do it right. But that's about it. There's more stuff you can do. I mean, there's more softwares you can get depending on what kind of cars you have. You can get really clever with it. But these are the basics. Google My Business, website, booking software, those kind of all go together. And then insurance company, make sure your car is covered. Sell insurance so you can open up to more customers and just be covered essentially. Vetting process to make sure you're not just renting to anybody. Honestly, vetting process even goes to background checks, but that's per person. I mean, some cities and stuff are sketchy. They have really bad renters. They cause problems. So that's a place I'd probably do background checks. But other than that, I'm not too worried about it. There's Checker, CHECKR. That's a background vetting software. Contracts are an absolute must-have. You have to know who has liability. And then verify insurance, dude. I'll tell people all day long. And if you're not verifying insurance, first off, don't do it, but you're crazy because something's gonna happen. I've heard of somebody not verifying insurance. Somebody called me. They said, "Hey, I got a problem. I got a person that's in an accident, and the insurance company isn't covering it." I'm like, "Well, did you call them before and like verify it?" And he's like, "No, I didn't do that." I'm like, "Well, this is your fault. You're gonna have to pay for your mistake because you didn't verify the insurance. I have no way to help you. I don't even know what to do in that situation because I'm gonna cover my bases before something bad happens instead of after." Super important lessons. Just, I mean, if you have all this is like a base. If you have all this, you're gonna be pretty good. This is a great start. I wish I would have done this when I started my rental business. We would have been way better off. Instead of doing 80,000 halfway through the year, we probably would have been full private doing, I don't know, $400,000 or $500,000 at this point in the year. So super important. Set up your private, no matter what stage you're at. Even if you don't want to actually do private rentals, just set up a website and have like your Turo links on the site so people can book the cars, and a Google My Business, so you have more traffic flowing in to book through your Turo site. Once you feel comfortable with it, then you modify the website to actually take bookings and do the private stuff. So that's it. Thank you for watching. I have a full course talking about all this stuff, like beginning to end, how to do private. I break down all this stuff and more. Link in bio. If you're going to do it right. I would definitely check it out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.